Welcome to the program, everyone. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. Well, today, and it's continuing even now as we speak, we are watching the deconstruction and collapse of the entire Nikki Haley presidential campaign and professional career. And when this is all over, Nikki Haley is going to find herself, like Ron DeSantis, unelectable forever over this Civil War question. So I've got some of the audio. Nikki Haley was trying to do damage control today. She made it worse. We're going to go through that.
That also always happens when you try to do damage control. Oh, yeah. You always make it worse.
Absolutely. Also, yesterday was not the first time she had a problem with the Civil War question. Over a decade ago, she was asked and had a problem with that question. And I'm going to share that audio with you coming up, okay? It's from over a decade ago. Nikki Haley, same position, similar question on the Civil War. She totally flubbed it over a decade ago, and she still hasn't gotten better. So we're going to go through all this. And, the thing about when you make a mistake or you don't know something, I learned this early on in my broadcasting career. If you don't know something, admit it. If you've made a mistake, immediately let it be corrected.
Okay, so say you're her and you gave the answer she gave. You were caught off guard and you gave that answer. Just say the same situation. How would you handle that today?
No,
what would you say?
Well, this question and answer that she did, there's no damage control you can do.
So what would you do? Just ignore it? What would your advice be to her?
My advice would be stay out of public life. You're unqualified. Okay? In this instance.
But realistically, what would you tell her to do?
There's nothing she can do. It cannot be corrected.
Okay. Just admit you're an idiot.
The self-destruction we're going through by Nikki Haley with this Civil War question is because, like President Trump says, President Trump calls her bird brain. Bird brain means stupid. She's dumb. And she did not know the cause of the Civil War, which is really sad. She was the governor of South Carolina.
It's very ironic.
Which is a Confederate state, and she was dealing with the Confederate flag.
Yeah.
And what I was talking about on the stream this morning about Nikki Haley and the Civil War question, and in a moment we'll start to go through the audio of it. Nikki Haley was born in South Carolina, okay? Her parents, though, are immigrants. She was raised by immigrant parents who are not Americanized. They came here as adults. And these things that we Americans grow up just knowing, she didn't grow up in a household like that. You know, like me, for example, my grandfather was in his 50s when my mother was born. So he was older. His uncle was actually in the Union Army in the Civil War, so that's a pretty quick connection for me with the Civil War.
Yeah.
We have that experience. We have that knowledge. To not know the cause of the Civil War is to not be an American. There are Americans that have different opinions on the Civil War and the causes of it. But if you can't give a direct answer as to the cause of the Civil War like she did, this means you don't know basic American history, basic American civics, or basic Americanism. I would say that she's an American in accent only. She's as dumb as Kamala, dumb as AOC.
I think you're giving her too much credit by blaming her parents. I think she is just dumb and didn't pay attention in class or something. I mean, my parents really never talked to me at length about the Civil War. I mean, they're not into historians or anything, but what I learned in school or books, learned on my own. And so I don't know if I'd blame her parents. I mean, my mom's an immigrant. All the history she learned was English history. She grew up in Canada. She never learned American history, and she had to learn all this stuff when she became a citizen. So I wouldn't blame her parents on this. She's just dumb. And I think Trump is definitely behind this. You're going to play the clip. She had flubbed this question before years ago. And I think somebody on his team found this audio, and said, let's get somebody to ask her this. She'll F it up.
Well,
and that's exactly what happened. He's definitely playing a different game than before. Much more cunning.
What's crazy about Nikki Haley in this, okay, is she was born and raised in South Carolina.
Yeah, that is crazy.
And to not have not to have a basic knowledge of the Civil War that all Americans have.
I agree. If you're the governor of that state, of all states,
if you're an American, you need to know the answer.
Then she should know the history of that state like the back of her freaking hand. I mean, honestly, if she is the governor of South Carolina, which was obviously a Confederate state and played a big part in the Civil War, it wasn't like Florida. Florida helped
Florida
get
played
supplies.
a big part in the Civil War.
Yeah, they did, but it wasn't like South Carolina.
No.
Florida helped get supplies to the southern states. They would bring them in through Miami and through that's the southern part of the state and ship them up. So Florida helped with that. But as far as having slaves, and Florida's part of the Caribbean, but I think South Carolina, as far as battles and things like that, had a much, much bigger part in the Civil War. Florida was not as occupied back then, that long ago, and it just didn't have as big of a role in that regard. But being the governor of that state, I would think she would know the history of that state and the history of the Civil War. It was a huge part of that state's
Kathy,
history.
That's true. I mean, if you're in South Carolina, you can't go 2 blocks without running into some Civil War monument.
Exactly. That's what I mean. It's everywhere. You don't see that here. You might see people with Confederate flags. I did growing up a lot.
You don't see it anymore.
Not as much anymore. But there's not like memorials or things here because there were no battles or anything. Maybe in northern Florida, Tallahassee, Jacksonville, that area. But anything south of that really did not have a big part in that war.
Nikki Haley,
from what I understand,
she went to college. She went to Clemson. She's got a degree, I think, in like finance or accounting or something.
That's a pretty good school.
Yeah, but so she's gone through. She got a bachelor's degree. She's gone all the way through college. Growing up in a heavily Confederate state, that they had the Confederate flag on their flag, and it's always the Confederate flag flying over the State House.
I mean, Brian, doesn't everybody know the cause of the Civil War? That's an American.
Nikki Haley.
I mean, that's just such a simple thing to know. That's a very simple question.
The Confederate flag flying over the State House in South Carolina, where she was a member, has always been an issue. So let me get through this. This was the town hall questioner, and this started it all. And then we'll get into the damage control that she tried to do today, which caused more damage. But here's the question from the town hall in New Hampshire with Nikki Haley. This is Berlin, New Hampshire, yesterday.
What was the cause of the United States Civil War?
Oh, boy.
Well, don't come with an easy question or anything. I mean, I think the cause of the Civil War was basically how government was going to run, the freedoms and what people could and couldn't do. What do you think the cause of the Civil War was? I'm sorry?
I'm not running for president.
Oh, boy.
I mean, I think it always comes down to the role of government.
2023, it's astonishing to me that you answer that question without mentioning the word slavery.
What do you want me to say about slavery?
No, you answered my question. Thank you.
Next question.
Okay.
I just retweeted. There's a new soundbite of Nikki Haley that's really bad.
Okay, so this part right here, just let you know about this. When she says, "What do you think?"
Oh my goodness.
This means she didn't know. She has no answers. So she was trying to get him to say something so she had something to play off of. Now,
and that's not a hard question. She said, "Oh, why don't you ask me?" I mean, she said, "You're coming with the hard question." That is basic, very basic American history. Everybody knows the reason for the Civil War.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
So
that's nuts.
So there's a lot of talk as to whether this was a plan or not. Obviously, this was planned by this person. And she's saying that he was a Democrat plant. No, I believe this guy, regardless of what his political affiliation turns out to be, the root cause behind this, I believe, was the Trump campaign. And I'll tell you why.
Absolutely.
I'll tell you why. The Democrats don't want to go after Nikki Haley right now. She's in second place against Trump. John Sununu, the governor of New Hampshire, the Republican governor who endorsed her, they're working with Democrats to get Democrat turnout in the New Hampshire primary, which is a crossover primary, meaning Democrats can vote in the Republican primary.
The Trump campaign was totally behind
this.
us.
And next month, we're just over 2 weeks away from the Iowa caucus, and then the end of January is the New Hampshire primary. So this is an October surprise in December. It's about the same time, just like 2 weeks away. She doesn't have time to properly respond, only do damage control. She's starting the new year off very bad. So I believe that this was done by the Trump campaign. Even when this guy's finally identified, and eventually he will, he may be a Democrat, he may be a guy connected to DeSantis for all we know.
Maybe he's connected to Vivek.
But the root, it could be Vivek Ramaswamy, who's about to endorse President Trump.
In fact, I just retweeted a clip of Vivek in one of the debates saying that Nikki Haley knew nothing about the Civil War, and that was before.
So, and Vivek Ramaswamy is on the verge of endorsing President Trump. I think they're already working together unofficially.
Yeah.
So if Ramaswamy is behind this, that means the MAGA, the Trump campaign are behind. Okay, so this is the clip you just retweeted.
Well, I think he is behind it because I just retweeted a clip of Vivek from a debate a few weeks ago saying how she knew nothing about the Civil War.
I'll play that one in a minute.
That cannot be a coincidence that this question was asked.
Yeah. So this first clip we're going to play, this is I actually got a couple clips from this. This is one of the ones you just retweeted, but this is Nikki Haley today speaking to a group trying to do damage control and doing more damage to herself.
I wanted to ask you, so Chris Christie thinks that you're a flip-flopper on the Donald Trump issue. And honestly, I agree with him. And you're basically the new John Kerry on the... Do you remember John Kerry from 2004?
I don't know exactly what that means, the new John Kerry. But
I don't either.
But this kid and the group that are there, they're laughing at Nikki Haley. And this is the beginning of the end. Now, let me play this clip. This is the other one. And by the way, these tweets Kathy is making are on my Twitter, Brian Craig Show on Twitter.
This tells me that Vivek is behind this. That Vivek went to Trump and said, there's a clip of her. She doesn't know anything about the Civil War. Let's go ask her a question about it. A very basic question, because that's not a coincidence.
Yeah, so this is Vivek Ramaswamy. This is at the last Republican debate, the News Nation debate, and the screen has a split screen with Vivek on the right and Nikki Haley on the left.
I think those with foreign policy experience, one thing that Joe Biden and Nikki Haley have in common is that neither of them could even state for you 3 provinces in eastern Ukraine that they want to send our troops to actually fight for. Look at that. This is what I want people to understand. These people she has no idea what the hell the names of those provinces are, but she wants to send our sons and daughters and our troops and our military equipment to go fight it. So reject this myth that they've been selling you, that somebody had a cup of coffee stint at the UN and then makes $8 million after, has real foreign policy experience.
Okay, now this is about Ukraine.
Oh, I thought it was about the Civil War.
But that's okay. That's okay. It's another example of the stupidity of Nikki Haley.
My mistake.
And in this instance, when they do this split screen and he brings this up, she wants us to go into Ukraine. It's so important. She can't name a province. I can't name a province in Ukraine, but I don't think it's important and we should be there. She thinks it's so important we should go to war with Mother Russia. And you see the look on her face, and she's just out of it. She doesn't know. And Nikki Haley is just not a smart person. She's just not smart.
Behind this somehow. I still think he's somehow, because she had made a comment years ago on the Civil War and did not know how to answer it. And I still think Vivek brought that. I thought that was about the Civil War. It was about the Civil War in the Ukraine. So I was wrong about that. But
Nikki Haley, the Civil War question she came up with today, the first time she had this problem, she was doing an interview. It was in 2010.
Right.
And it was one of those editorial interviews where she's being interviewed and they ask her about the Civil War. And, you got to understand, if you're in South Carolina politics, as she has been all her life, the Civil War always comes up because of the Confederate flag and things like this. And there's a lot of talk about the Civil War. And Democrats are always trying to play gotcha with Republicans because Democrats in the media want to sell this false narrative that Republicans were the Confederates when it was the Democrats. But this is the audio that I only heard today for the first time. This is Nikki Haley in 2010 asked about the Civil War.
What's your belief about the reason the Civil War was fought?
that as we look in government, as we watch government, you have different sides. And I think that you see passions on different sides. And I don't think anyone does anything out of hate. I think what they do is they do things out of tradition and out of beliefs of what they believe is right. I think you had one side of the Civil War that was fighting for tradition, and I think you had another side of the Civil War that was fighting for change. You know, at the end of the day, what I think we need to remember is that, you know,
Wow.
everyone is supposed to have their rights. Everyone's supposed to be free. Everyone's supposed to have the same freedoms as anyone else. So, you know, I think it was tradition versus change is the way I see it.
Tradition versus change on what?
On individual rights and liberty of people.
Okay. Now let me
She gave the same answer 9 years later.
13 years.
13
this was
years
2010.
later. Yeah.
Okay, now here's the thing with Nikki Haley, okay? I've talked about this before with other politicians, not so much Nikki Haley, but before the era of Obama, people were always talking, who's the first black president going to be? And Republicans always said the first black president's going to be a Republican. And believe it or not, back then, this is crazy. A lot of Republicans wanted Colin Powell to be the president. Can you imagine?
Oh,
The
my
liberal
goodness
jerk got
gracious.
us involved in Iraq. But anyway, when Obama got elected and the first black president was a Democrat, and that was in 2008, the Republican Party the establishment Republican Party went into panic mode over this. It's hard to understand this now, so many years later, but I was there and I remember. The Republican Party went into a panic mode and started promoting any Republican that wasn't white into upper level positions. Marco Rubio, Bobby Jindal, and remember Bobby Jindal had
what happened to him?
Yeah, he had a disaster when it came to the response to Obama's State of the Union, if you remember that. Michael Steele, who's on MSNBC, headed up the Republican Party. Nikki Haley was another one.
Yep.
And a lot of people got promoted from lower level positions, like Marco Rubio was in the state Senate. Nikki Haley was in the state House. A lot of people that were lower got promoted to higher state level and federal level offices that they weren't ready for or qualified for because the Republicans who were against affirmative action because it discriminates, but they all of a sudden started applying affirmative action.
That's exactly right.
And
they wanted to diversify the party more.
And Nikki Haley is an affirmative action person.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how she answered that question 13 years ago. And I'm telling you, somebody found that clip, and it could have been Vivek, possibly, and made that, this is my theory, gave it the attention to Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And that question, there is no way that question was not a setup because it's the same question, and she gave the same answer. So in 13 years, she didn't learn anything. I mean, it's amazing. So there's breaking news. I just showed you.
Let's get to that in the next segment, okay? Because I want to get through this. The thing with Nikki Haley in 2010, I mean, there's no excuse for somebody at any level, even back when she was in state government, to not know about the Civil War. There's no excuse for that,
especially the state she ran. That's incredible.
But what's really a thing about her that is just a terrible trait. No one can know everything. I mean, there's basic things that you assume people know, like the cause of the Civil War and such. But when you are in a high-profile position and there's something you don't know and you don't educate yourself, that's a bad quality.
Exactly.
I've been a broadcaster for over 30 years, and sometimes there's something I may not be totally up to speed on, something I don't know. It doesn't happen very often. It happens. But if something comes up and I don't know, I read a little bit. I do a little research. I educate myself. That's what you got to do.
It's amazing that she got stumped on the exact same question so many years later and still doesn't have a better answer.
Because that
says a lot about her as a person.
Because as President Trump says, Nikki Haley is a bird brain.
Apparently.
Which means stupid. Now, I want to thank our Patreon supporters. As we conclude another year, I want to thank all of you who are Patreon supporters for your support of the program. Those of you that are Patreon supporters, your support helps us a lot. It helps keep this show going, and it's greatly appreciated. The Brian Craig Show podcast has been named the #3 must-listen-to conservative podcast in America for several years in a row, by the way. Number 1 is Mark Levin, which should not even count because that's just a rebroadcast of his radio show. Number 2 is Glenn Beck's The Blaze, and number 3 is the Brian Craig Show podcast. But hey, listen, I'm fine to be listed number 3 with those two guys in front of me. And this podcast, Kathy and I do, we've been doing this podcast for many, many years now. And those of you that are Patreon supporters help keep it going. And those of you that are Patreon supporters, you're supporting everything that I do, all the content that I'm connected to, you are supporting the podcast, my YouTube channel, and everything else, okay? And it's greatly appreciated. And those of you that are Patreon supporters, remember, you have access to commercial-free editions of all our podcast episodes on the Patreon page. There are other perks and benefits as well. Our top Patreon supporters get a live on-air thank you shout-out. So the names you'll hear now are our top Patreon supporters who get a live on-air thank you shout-out on each and every podcast episode. I want to thank Andrew and Connie, Christine, ETW, Chuck, D, Pamela, Rick, Nick, Wesley, Macho, Mike P, Carlos, Paulette, John, ActicFox, Heather, David, Richard, Maria in Texas, and we have 3 new Patreon supporters that are top Patreon supporters that just joined us this week, Alice, K-Mac, and LeeZep. And remember, top Patreon supporters, your names, first names only, but your names are listed in the description of all the podcast episodes as well as my YouTube videos. If you would like to become a Patreon supporter, there is a link in the description of this episode on whatever platform you're listening to us on, or just go to patreon.com/RealBrianCraigShow. All right, let's get back to Nikki Haley. So I got some new audio. This is Nikki Haley trying to do damage control about her not knowing the cause of the Civil War, which, by the way, the cause of the Civil War is very simple, okay? Democrats enslaved black people, okay? The Republican Party was the abolitionist party, the abolition of slavery.
The party of Lincoln.
Abraham Lincoln was elected in 1860. He ran on an abolitionist platform.
That's right.
The Democrats, because Abraham Lincoln was running on an abolitionist platform, did not have Abraham Lincoln on any ballot in the southern states. He still won the Electoral College. When he was president-elect, now remember, back in those days, you didn't have the inauguration till March because it took a long time to travel back then, okay? So when he was president-elect, the Democrats started leaving the Union and forming the Confederacy. They fired on Fort Sumter, and the Democrats, the cause of the Civil War, the Democrats wanted to keep enslaving black people. Mm-hmm. The Republican Party said no, and that's why the Civil War started. Okay, now here's Nikki Haley today trying to do damage control.
War was about slavery. We know that. That's the easy part of it.
Well, she knows it now.
I thought she said it was a hard question.
Yeah,
now it's easy.
Last night it was hard, and today it's easy.
Gracious.
I'm sure she knows now, but she didn't know yesterday.
She is stupid.
War was about slavery. We know that. That's the easy part of it. What I was saying was, what does it mean to us today? What it means to us today is about freedom. That's what that was all about. It was about individual freedom. It was about economic freedom. It was about individual rights. Our goal is to make sure, no, we never go back to the stain of slavery, but what's the lesson in all of that?
The lesson is you're unqualified.
God. She's talking out of her butt.
Yeah, she sure is. I mean, she's really having some trouble. Okay, now here's more today. Nikki Haley was on a total, let me do more damage to my campaign tour today.
Oh my goodness.
Radio, but she's saying, of course, the Civil War was about slavery, but then she said this. She was talking about what it means today, and she says it's about freedom and individual rights. I think we have that sound, so I'm going to let you listen to it.
Well, 2 things on this, Jack. I mean, of course, the Civil War was about slavery. We know that. That's the easy part of it.
Okay, now that's a longer version of the one I played before. So, I mean, she's just, of course it was about slavery. Well, if it's of course, why didn't she say that yesterday in Berlin, New Hampshire? Why did she not say that in 2010? Okay,
now if this to me is like an answer that her original answer is something Kamala would say.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
she does not have an American education. I mean, she has an education. She was educated in Canada. And my mom had told me that they do not learn American history really there. It's English history. They think they're English, the Canadians. And I know they're like English subjects. They have the queen on the money or the king now and everything. So that's still a big part of their life. I'm not exactly sure how that works. But anyway, they consider themselves like really kind of British citizens adjacent, I guess. And they still have a lot of British traditions there. So that's what my mom learned. I asked her one time, and she said, no, we learned all British history.
She didn't go to school in America. Nikki Haley did.
No, but I'm saying that's the answer that I would expect out of Kamala, not out of a woman educated here in America who should know this basic American history.
So
everybody knows.
So this is Nikki Haley at a campaign stop today doing more damage to herself.
Oh, my goodness.
Last night I was asked about the Civil War. And what I think of the Civil War, what was the cause of the Civil War.
Oh, my goodness.
Of course the Civil War was about slavery.
Back to that, of course.
Of course. Of course. We all know this.
Of course the Civil War was about slavery. We know that. That's unquestioned, always the case. We know the Civil War was about slavery. But it was also more than that. It was about the freedoms of every individual. It was about the role of government. For 80 years, America had the decision and the moral question of whether slavery was a good thing and whether government, economically, culturally, any other reasons, had a role to play in that.
This is such a BS answer. This is what she's doing here is lying. Okay, they're trying. They practiced and came up with an answer to try to fit in with the gobbledygook she said at the town hall in New Hampshire yesterday to try to make it sound like she's saying the same thing now that she said yesterday when yesterday she was clueless.
Yeah, I'm sure they were up all night trying to figure that out.
Did the right thing, and slavery is no more. But the lessons of what that bigger issue with the Civil War are is that let's not forget what came out of that, which is government's role, individual liberties, freedom for every single person, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom to do and be anything you want to be without anyone or government getting in your way. That should be the goal of what we always try and take away from that, right? Because we never want to return back to that place. But we always want to remember the lesson of what it means to be a free individual and that everyone deserves to be a free individual. So we stand by that. I say that as a Southerner. I say that as a Southern governor who removed the Confederate flag off the State House grounds. And I say that as a proud American of how far we have come.
Yeah, and my recollection is when she ran for governor, she was not going to remove the Confederate flag off the State House in South Carolina.
So she thinks we're going to return to slavery like Whoopi Goldberg.
Exactly.
What a lunatic.
Now, just one last clip here, and then we'll break and move on to some other topics. Fox and Friends was discussing this today. And Fox, of course, they've dropped DeSantis, and they've been on this Nikki Haley train for the last month or two. This is Griff Jenkins and that Carly girl. The one that's always pregnant, and she's one of those, I have nothing against moms and pregnant women, but you know what really annoys me? Pregnant women and moms who think they're the first woman to get pregnant and have a child.
Right.
And nobody else has had a child or understands it except them.
It's like women who get engaged, they think they're the only person who can say fiancé.
Exactly.
They say it every sentence.
I hate when
my fiancé this, my fiancé that. Yes, my fiancé. I know women like that.
I hate that. Well, anyway, this is Griff Jenkins and Carly. And this is a reason why Fox News is going down the tubes.
Yes.
Fox News, Griff Jenkins and Carly here, Shimkus, I think is her name.
I have no clue who that
Carly
is. I don't
Shimkus.
watch Fox anymore.
Yeah. I saw this on Twitter. I did not watch this, okay? I saw this on
we
Twitter.
don't watch Fox.
And plus it was Fox and Friends, and I'm on the air in the morning.
That's true.
But they defended Nikki Haley's.
Yeah, Fox is defending her. I saw that on Twitter, too.
They're defending Nikki Haley's response at the New Hampshire town hall yesterday and actually praising her
oh my goodness.
for how she handled that question. Listen.
Clearly the answer is slavery. She was trying to give a more educated and philosophical.
Oh, yes.
Did you notice she's using the same word as Nikki Haley, clearly.
Oh, Nikki Haley was giving a more philosophical answer.
So Carly...
She was educating us stupid people.
Carly and Nikki Haley are both using clearly. It's like the same person wrote their talking points.
It's like the word feckless. All of a sudden, that became a thing.
Yeah.
Clearly the answer is slavery. She was trying to give a more educated and philosophical response.
My God.
She couldn't have actually handled it better. She's thinking, is this a gotcha question? Are you trying to imply that I won't condemn the evils of slavery, perhaps in her head? Or is she saying, is this about the actual nuances of what the Civil War is fought over, which is about the economics and politics from the state versus federal government level of issues like slavery? And in that moment, I think she handled it quite well, considering and didn't give in to what clearly, as you point out, was a gotcha question.
Yep, clearly. He said clearly, too.
Yeah, they all say clearly. That's the talking point.
That's the brainwashing right there.
Yeah.
That's the brain. That's the spin.
That's the spin talking
cycle.
point. Okay, now, this thing about this philosophical, when somebody says to you, when somebody asks, there are certain things that aren't gotcha questions, okay? If someone says, why'd we get in World War II? The answer, Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor.
Right.
Okay. Now, there's a larger philosophical in detail. You can talk about the U.S. oil embargo against Japan because Japan invaded China and the United States, which was the number one producer of oil back then, just like we were when Trump was president in the first term. We had an oil embargo because they invaded China. You don't get that. You don't say all that stuff. You say Japs bombed Pearl Harbor. Okay. So you don't.
Brian, I'm sorry. Her answer had nothing to do with the question. They can spin it all they want.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with the question that was asked of her.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It was gobbledygook.
President Trump calls her bird brain. That means she's stupid, and she's been proving it for now the second day that she is, in fact, a bird brain.
Why do you think and I don't want to blame her parents. Why do you think she had an American education? She was born here. She was the governor of a southern state where the Civil War is a huge part of their history. Why do you think she doesn't know this basic fact about the Civil War?
Simple.
Is she really just this ignorant?
It's simple, okay? Like the woman that's the president of Harvard, she's gotten through her career through affirmative action, even though she's a Republican. And she just is like she's AOC dumb. She's
You're right.
Kamala
The
Harris
Republicans
dumb.
went through this phase where they wanted to elevate people of color based only on their color because they wanted to make the party more diverse. And she just happened to be in the right place at the right time. And I guess they were on this Indian kick and they were promoting all these Indians or something.
Well, at the time, see,
Bobby Jindal. Well, I don't know about
Bobby Jindal, but
he seems okay.
The Republican Party is incredibly diverse today because of Donald Trump. Donald Trump has made the Republican Party very ethnically diverse. But
voters too.
But before Donald Trump, in 2008, the Republican Party was pretty white. Okay, and they didn't have a big talent pool. Now we got great people like Byron Donalds. Right. You know? They didn't have a talent pool back then of non-whites that was too deep in the Republican Party, and that's where she came from. All right, listen, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, there is a lot more to talk about. Don't go anywhere. We've only just begun. My name's Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. We're going to be back right after this quick break.
Embark on an enchanting journey with sugar gliders, Dash and Vi, the most adorable duo you'll ever meet. Get ready to dive into a world of excitement, exploration, and friendship with Search to Find Rhyming Riddles in Dash and Vi by Katie Cahill. In this charming children's book, Dash and Vi, two curious sugar gliders take readers on thrilling adventures with vibrant illustrations that breathe life into every scene. Dash and Vi invites children to immerse themselves in a world of captivating imagery. Every page is a gateway to a new destination where imagination knows no bounds and Dash and Vi await to be found. Perfect for children of all ages, Dash and Vi is not only an entertaining read, but also an educational journey. It fosters cognitive development, boosts problem-solving abilities, nurtures a love for exploration, and introduces children to the world of sugar gliders. Let Dash and Vi be your child's guide to an unforgettable adventure where learning and fun seamlessly intertwine. Where is Dash? Where is Vi? Order your copy of Dash and Vi from author Katie Cahill, available on Amazon and Kindle and paperback. Adventure awaits in the new children's book from author Katie Cahill, Dash and Vi, available on Amazon. Imagine a world where your deepest desires become reality, where heaven on earth isn't just a concept, but a living truth. Perfected States, Creating Heaven on Earth by author Latoya Baglanian, available on Amazon, will take you on an extraordinary journey. This must-read and life-changing book is a unique blend of biblical wisdom, the law of attraction, and groundbreaking science. Perfected States shares a blueprint for life that transcends your wildest dreams. Scripture intertwines with the law of attraction, offering a profound spiritual depth that will elevate your understanding and inspire your soul. Each chapter is a step towards aligning with God's plan, emphasizing the power of faith and the potential within you to create a perfected state of being. Author Latoya Baglanian guides you with practical insights and motivational wisdom, helping you to live the life you were intended to enjoy. Perfected States, Creating Heaven on Earth is available right now on Amazon in Kindle, paperback, and Kindle Unlimited. This is your chance to transform your life and shape a future where the extraordinary becomes the norm. Perfected States, Creating Heaven on Earth from author Latoya Baglanian on Amazon. When you're looking for luxury and comfort while you sleep, look no further than u-store.com. That's the letter U. With u-store.com, you'll experience the pinnacle of quality with their bedsheet sets, crafted from the finest Egyptian and Supima cotton, and it's grown right here in the USA. u-store.com's goal is to bring you luxury at an affordable price. Their bedsheets are not just softer, but they're more breathable too, thanks to the extra long staple fibers. They're also remarkably durable. Imagine each night slipping into sheets that elevate your sleep experience. You'll do just that with their special weave and unmatched softness. And they're proudly made by skilled female artisans. They also offer free shipping on all orders. Make sure you check out their plush cold winter artisan scarf. It's warm, cozy, and hand-fringed. It's more than just an accessory, it's a statement. u-store.com is committed to sustainability. Everything is made using natural fibers with only the power of windmills and solar energy. Support small business. Visit u-store.com. That's the letter U, u-store.com, where luxury meets sustainability. Start shopping right now. With holiday parties and a new year right around the corner, it's time to transform your skincare routine with Rheemon, online at wantlesswrinkles.com. There you will find Rheemon, the #1 skincare company in Korea that's now launching in the United States. This is a true revolution in skincare. Everything is completely vegan and from chemical-free formulations. They believe in the cruelty-free approach. These amazing products contain no animal-derived ingredients and are never tested on animals. There are also no parabens, sulfates, artificial fragrances, or any other questionable substances in their formulations. Are you ready to experience the Rheemon difference? Then visit wantlesswrinkles.com and discover a new era of skincare. Rheemon, trusted ingredients, unprecedented results. Don't miss out. wantlesswrinkles.com.
You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at briancraigshow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. Thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in. So the Secretary of State of Colorado says Trump is back on the ballot unless the Supreme Court rules he should be disqualified. I'm assuming that means the Supreme Court of the United States. You know, it's so interesting we're talking about the Civil War here with Nikki Haley today, because this law about insurrection was about Civil War leaders, okay? After the Civil War, there was a 10-year military occupation of the entire South. And, you know, you'll read a lot in history that the first black senators, House members, and governors were black, they weren't elected. The Union appointed the congressmen and the governors of the southern states. They did that for 10 years, and they appointed blacks as much as they possibly could to do it. That's why it happened. But they were the government was afraid that Confederate generals or maybe even Jefferson Davis himself could get elected. Remember, Jefferson Davis was in the Senate before the war. There were former presidents who supported the Confederacy during the war, believe it or not. So, and it's crazy. But there was a fear that Confederate generals and others would become president. And so that's why they passed that. And that made perfect sense.
But wasn't Lincoln's VP a Confederate?
No, he had two VPs. One was from Kentucky, which was a Confederate state, but he was a Union guy. Okay. But see how easy it is, Nikki Haley, if you're an American who has the basic knowledge.
I don't know everything, but
you know more than Nikki
what
Haley.
What do you think is behind this decision of Colorado?
This is the
public
thing.
Pressure.
President Trump did not take part in an insurrection against the government.
No.
Okay. And I mean, what happened on January 6th is going to be debated till doomsday. It was not an insurrection. And even if it was, Trump was not behind it, had nothing to do with it. In fact, he tried to take action with Nancy Pelosi to protect the Capitol before all of this by offering soldiers, which she turned down. Okay. So this is their tactic, like with Lincoln. Okay. It's
not working though. Michigan is keeping him on the ballot too.
Yeah.
These Supreme Courts and these people are realizing that this is not going to hold up.
Yeah.
There's no legal grounds for this.
Exactly.
So this whole plan of them keeping him off the ballot is falling apart.
Well, see, what's happening is, and you see this happening on all kinds of things, okay? Donald Trump not only is Donald Trump projected to win in every single poll in the battleground states against Biden. I'm not talking about the Republican primary. I'm talking about against Biden. The Republicans, the polling is showing that the Republicans are going to expand the majority in the House, and I think those projections are even conservative. I think there's going to be a massive wave of Republicans in the House because the Democrats are going to have such a low turnout among African Americans. That's going to hurt them in House races. The Democrats are going to lose seats in the Senate too. I don't know if what our majority would look like, but we've got a good chance of winning the Senate back too. But Trump is so popular, so right. These cases are falling apart.
I think that's a big part of it is his popularity.
All these things that are happening in his favor and these court rulings, like Jack Smith trying to get the case tossed by the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
All these things are happening because he's so popular. If you guys remember back during the Mueller report days, okay, when we were talking about the Mueller report and Mueller was in this position where he had nothing, and we were talking about it way back then, and I said, if you remember when Trump first became president, what the media said and the Republican establishment were saying was that you can't run the government like a business. It's going to be a disaster. And when the Mueller investigation started, they thought 6 months to a year into President Trump's first term, they believed that you can't run the government like a business. They thought that the country economically and internationally was going to be a disaster, that he would drop in the polls and the American people would be begging for him to be out of office, and they would use that clout against Trump to get him to resign or remove him from office. They thought the same thing with all these arrests and the mugshots, and because they have Trump derangement syndrome, they don't see anything clearly. They thought that that MAGA Republicans, that we are law and order, we support the police, we support the law, we support order, we support the system, and when he's arrested and has a mugshot, and they've done it several times, arrest, only one mugshot, that we would turn against him. And they never dreamed at how popular he would become. On top of that, what's going on internationally with Ukraine, what's going on with the economy, and don't buy this crap that inflation's over. Kathy and I, we ordered 2 rotisserie chickens from the grocery store.
This is nuts.
Okay.
I tweeted this.
And okay, is it on my Twitter?
Yeah.
Okay. the Publix, our big grocery store here in Florida, Kathy and I like the rotisserie chickens because
we've been getting it for years.
They're pre-made. You just got to cut them. They're real nice.
Good.
You know, it's just the two of us now. Our daughter's out of the house, so you know we don't make a big to-do about dinner. And the rotisserie chickens, they're like miniatures.
They look like a Cornish game hen. I mean, it was
they're like
the
miniatures.
legs were almost bigger than the whole chicken. I could not believe how small it was. And I put it on your Twitter. So what's happening is the prices are the same, but you're getting less food. They're trying to trick you. You're getting less food. Now, this could be a fluke. We got 2. So I'll see what the other one looks like. I ordered 2 rotisseries.
And it was lower quality chicken.
Yes.
And than normal. And the price is not lower. It's more than it used to be. But anyway, the economy's in a bad spot.
Yep.
All these things are going on. And they didn't expect his popularity to rise, and then the American people hating on the Democrats so much, and
that's true.
These legal cases and these things about the ballot they can't push through like they wanted because Trump.
That's not going to happen.
Trump is so popular, and on top of that, they know he's coming back, and he's going to come back with a vengeance. And I like how the media are playing this thing like, well, Trump wants revenge and revenge is not right. And they've been doing crime against him since 2015, right? When they started spying on Trump Tower and they're doing it right now with all these cases in 2023. They're going to continue it in 2024. So we have almost a decade of criminal activity of corrupt public officials misusing their authority and government against President Trump for almost 10 years.
So what do you think
him bringing these people to justice, they tell you revenge and it's wrong?
No, it's not.
Are you kidding me?
It's what needs to happen. What do you think is Mitt Romney and the rhinos are like on plan Y, or they're getting close to plan Z here. There's a whole episode of SpongeBob with Plankton. He's the villain. And he runs out of ideas to destroy Mr. Krabs if you watch the cartoon, and he goes to Plan Z. It's like his last plan. So are they at Plan Z yet? I mean, this whole thing with the ballots was a big part of their plan. It's falling apart because Trump is so popular. You're right. That's definitely part of it, a big part of it. What do you think their next plan is going to be? Everything they have tried has gone to hell.
Yeah.
Has not worked out. They must be so frustrated, and which I think is hilarious. What do you think their next strategy is going to be? Their Plan Z? Are they past Plan Z? Are they on A, back to Plan A, Part 2? I mean, they've tried so many things. I've lost track.
I have no idea.
What do you think their next strategy will be? They can't keep them off the ballot now. You have 2 blue states, big states, Colorado, Michigan, that are keeping him on the ballot. So that tells me no other state is going to do this. It's falling apart. They're not going to do this.
That's right.
So I'm really curious what you guys think is their next strategy as far as trying to keep Trump, from winning.
It's hard to say.
It is hard to say.
It's hard to say.
Who knows how these people think? They're crazy.
Now, I want to take a moment to talk about MyPillow. In particular, I want to talk about the MyPillow pet bed. Now, our dog, Nina, she's 17 years old. She's got health issues.
She's old.
She's got dementia. She's losing her sight. She's lost a lot of her hearing, but she still gets around.
She still does well.
And we've had the MyPillow pet beds for years. And earlier this week, I washed them. I put them in the laundry room, and I never got to the wash. Okay, and she slept on it, and we didn't have them washed. They weren't dry, and it was just my fault. But we threw a blanket down, a folded blanket down on the floor. In our bedroom, we have wood floors. We threw a blanket down on the floor for her to sleep on. She laid down on it and everything else. The next day, she could hardly get up. Her back legs, she couldn't hardly move her back legs.
Right, she had trouble.
She was walking across the room, and her back legs weren't really holding her up or moving too much. And we thought, oh, man, it's time. We're going to have to take her to the vet. If she loses the use of her legs,
right,
we're going to have to put her down. And I told you, Kathy, I said, let me try the MyPillow pet beds. I think it's because she's sleeping on this blanket on the hard floor.
Right.
And the MyPillow pet beds have that same patented fill that the pillows have inside.
Right.
And sure enough, threw it out there on the floor. She slept on it the next morning. She got up perfectly.
Yeah,
like no problems.
She got up and
no
had no problem walking. So it definitely helps if you have an older dog.
Oh,
it definitely helps if they have like joint pain or hip pain.
It sure does.
Starting to have trouble. I noticed a big difference. So we got to make sure she always has that because we do have two. So we got to rotate. We just happen to have them both in the laundry room. So we got to make sure we always have one available to her
exactly. Exactly. And by the way, they are completely 100% washable and dryable inside out. When you wash the MyPillow pet bed and drying it, you're washing and drying the entire thing, the inside and the out. And they're like new when they come out of the dryer. It's amazing. They're just $19.99 with our promo code Kane at checkout, Kane. Now listen, you can take advantage of all the specials at MyPillow.com, not just the ones that we talk about, but the MyPillow pet bed is a great one. It's great for dogs and cats. Our cats, our dogs, they've all loved them. And certainly Nina went from, we thought we were going to have to put her down because she couldn't walk to walking like a normal dog. And in fact, you wouldn't even know she had joint problems watching her after she's sleeping back on the MyPillow pet bed. So go to MyPillow.com, use our promo code Kane at checkout, Kane, and get your MyPillow pet bed, just $19.99. They come in many different colors. We have one that's brown and one that's pink. All right. And remember, you're supporting the show every time you use our promo code Kane, Kane, at MyPillow.com. Here's another article about electric vehicles. Electric vehicle sales growth slows as more car buyers are turning away from them. There was a story about a week ago that hundreds of Buick dealerships are no longer going to be Buick dealerships. They got out of their contracts with Buick because Buick's pushing EVs and they can't sell them. The reason that electric vehicles are not selling, they've been around for years now. People that buy electric vehicles, they're not buying new ones. They're not, when they get a new car, which eventually they have to because the batteries or whatever, they're buying regular cars, maybe a hybrid, okay? If they're a real liberal do-gooder, right? Because the electric vehicles, they have a lot of problems, right? We know this. The battery problems, replacing the batteries when you have to is expensive. Costs thousands and thousands of dollars. It costs more than the car's worth a lot of times because the cars are old by the time they need a new battery. They don't get as far as they need to get because of the battery charging, problems getting charging locations, et cetera, et cetera. So the people that the virtue signal liberal do-gooders aren't buying new electric vehicles when it's time to buy a new car. And also the word of mouth on them is so bad by EV owners. And the EV it's like a Sunday car. Remember I told you guys I had a Jeep Wrangler for many years. I always wanted one. I'll never get another one. They're a nuisance. A Jeep Wrangler is a car that you keep in the garage that you drive on the weekends occasionally. It is, and that's how electric vehicles are, okay? EVs are like a Sunday car, a weekend car. It's not your primary transportation. There's all kinds of problems. And we're now getting through this. We're going through this phase where there's a rejection of electric vehicles, not by conservatives, but by the liberal do-gooder tree huggers that are not satisfied with them. And that's a good thing. And I'll tell you why it's a good thing. It's a good thing because we have more oil than any of the OPEC nations, and we should just be using oil. And oil is all natural. It comes from the earth. So as far as I'm concerned, oil that comes from the earth is a natural product. I don't know why people are so against oil.
This is because they've been brainwashed. This is all about cutting us off at the knees and enriching China. That's what this is all about. They don't want us to have that money coming in. We could give oil to the whole world and be fine. And they've convinced everybody, these useful idiots, through the politicians, that drilling and all this is bad for the environment. This global warming lie is all about helping China and hurting us.
That's right.
And I think it's going to start shifting back. People need cars. That's something we all have to have. We don't have horses and buggies. Maybe they want us to have that and go back to that. But we all need cars for the most part and rely on them every day for our lives. And if they're not practical, if they're too expensive, and if they're just not, something that people can't maintain, then they're going to go back to what works for them. and what's better for them, which is the gas guzzling cars that we all love.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, there's so much more to talk about. Don't go anywhere. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. We'll be back right after this break.
Parents and grandparents, are you looking for a toy that your children will love that'll spark their curiosity and make them laugh? Then order the Sensing Crawling Crab from CrabbyPlay.com, where every crawl creates a symphony of smiles. The Sensing Crawling Crab is a toy that'll become your child's magical companion, bringing innovation and joy to their playtime. Watch as your child's eyes sparkle with wonder as this adorable crab explores, dances, and entertains. You'll see your child laugh and chase after the crawling crab. It'll give them an endless source of fun and discovery. With its adorable crawling action, this crab is cute and encourages your child to engage in playful pursuit, mesmerizing them with its charming movements. It'll stimulate your child's curiosity and cognitive development. Your child will learn cause and effect, all while having fun. The Sensing Crawling Crab has enchanting melodies and dancing movements that create a whimsical atmosphere that adds more fun to your child's adventures. It has a built-in sensing device that navigates and avoids obstacles, providing uninterrupted fun. Visit CrabbyPlay.com, CRABI, and bring home the Sensing Crawling Crab and let the magic of Krabby Play turn playtime into a lifetime of delightful memories. CrabbyPlay.com. Stay up to date with the latest cybersecurity news with the Cyber Smart Morning News Update. That's Cyber, CYBUR. Hosted by retired FBI Special Agent and cybersecurity expert Darren Mott. Darren Mott brings over 20 years of cybersecurity experience to your morning routine, delivering quick, major cyber headlines that you might have missed overnight. Each episode is packed with the latest news, safety tips, and crucial insights to keep you cyber aware and safe. In 5 to 7 minute hits each day, the Cyber Smart Morning News Update provides the day's cyber news highlights as well as what it all means for you. They cover everything: municipal breaches, supply chain attacks, the latest in cybersecurity. If it's cyber news, they've got you covered. Stay informed and stay ahead of the curve in this digital world. The Cyber Smart Morning News Update with host Darren Mott is your early morning cyber caffeine hit. Make sure to listen and tell your friends too. Available on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and all major podcast platforms. The Cyber Smart Morning News Update with host Darren Mott, where cyber news meets clarity and action. From single mother of sons and author Donita Chanel comes the heartwarming memoir Raising Humans, a journey through the life of a single mom raising men, available on Amazon. Author Donita Chanel opens the doors of her life, sharing the joys and challenges of raising 2 sons on her own. With honesty, humor, and heart, she takes you through the ups and downs, the laughter and the tears of her unique journey. Despite believing in the value of a 2-parent household, she shows how a single mother can raise honest, thoughtful, successful, and well-rounded men. Raising Humans is an empowering guide and a testament to the strength and resilience of a mother's love. Author Donita Chanel's approach focuses on humanity over gender, imparting wisdom that not only shaped her sons, but continue to inspire others. Raising Humans is a must-read for single mothers everywhere. It's a celebration of the triumphs and the trials in raising the next generation of men. Available right now on Amazon and Kindle and audiobook. Order your copy of Raising Humans, a journey through the life of a single mom raising men, and join the journey of love, laughter, and life lessons. Raising Humans from author Donita Chanel on Amazon. Looking for a new podcast to add to your playlist? Then check out Diary of a Bald Man with host Alan Wooford. Diary of a Bald Man is a podcast where no topic is too tough, too personal, or too real. You'll hear powerful stories of veterans, law enforcement officers, firefighters and EMTs, and more. These are the voices of resilience, courage, and hope. Alan Wooford started Diary of a Bald Man 2 years ago when he was dealing with PTSD and seeking to open up conversations on difficult topics. Diary of a Bald Man explores life beyond public service, transitioning to civilian life, mental health challenges like PTSD, ADHD, and bipolar disorder, as well as crisis intervention and many more. Diary of a Bald Man is a journey through the highs and lows of life, embracing the importance of family time and self-care. Named a top 10 podcast in society and culture at the People's Choice Podcast Awards. Diary of a Bald Man is about overcoming, understanding, and growing. Diary of a Bald Man Man with host Alan Wooford is available on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and all podcast platforms. Tune in and be a part of the conversation that's changing lives. Diary of a Bald Man, where every episode is a step towards healing and understanding. Add Diary of a Bald Man to your podcast playlist right now.
You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at BrianCraigShow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host, Kathy. Oh, one quick thing I wanted to mention from the last segment I forgot to get to. Fox News was, they were praising Nikki Haley's stupidity.
Oh, yeah.
They were also praising Biden for replenishing the oil in the strategic oil reserves.
God. Anybody but Trump.
I'm like, this is Fox News. They're praising Nikki Haley's stupidity. They're praising Joe Biden. Joe Biden replenishing the oil in the strategic oil reserves. Donald Trump filled up the oil reserves at cheapo prices. Biden emptied out the oil reserves. A lot of it he sold to China, to a company that has a connection to that investment company that he and Hunter have ownership in.
That's right.
Okay, so Biden took oil from the strategic oil reserves that was bought very cheaply and basically sold it to his own company in China. Okay, and what's he done now? He's replenished the oil reserves that he depleted at these hugely inflated prices of oil compared to what they were when Trump was president. But the main thing here is Fox News is praising Biden over his oil policy. That's insane to me.
It is.
Now, there was an article I saw this morning in Breitbart. This is crazy. Listen to this. This is in Breitbart. I love Breitbart. And, I don't know if you guys are big Breitbart readers, but I certainly am. And every day I always check out Breitbart. I don't always agree with them, but I do. They have good reporting. Listen to this. This is in Breitbart today. Pregnant foreign nationals staked out in Mexico admit that they are looking to cross into the United States with the goal of securing birthright American citizenship for their unborn child that's in the womb. The Associated Press interviewed foreign nationals that are living in shelters in Mexico, including a couple who are pregnant with their third child. Their goal, the couple said, is to cross the border before they deliver their baby so that at least one of their children will have birthright citizenship, as it currently is allowed by the federal government. A few blocks from Mexico City's main plaza, where Blinken's meeting, with the Mexicans, migrants stayed at a shelter at a church near there. And it goes on and on and on. But, this is crazy. And they have a breakdown of this particular group, okay? Just this one group. That's where Blinken was meeting with illegals. Well, they're migrants. They're planning on they're not illegals yet. They're still in Mexico. But they plan on doing crime, which means illegally crossing the United States. There were 6,700 of them there, right? Of the 6,700, over 300 are known to be pregnant women, which means they're showing. So there's others that may not be showing or they haven't picked up on.
And some of them might be getting pregnant on purpose. You know what I mean? They don't just happen to be pregnant. They might be getting impregnated on purpose, knowing they were going to come here and do this. You know what I'm saying? To help them out.
Yeah. And, listen, this birthright citizenship, something's got to be done about this. I mean, it's what's going on here is insane. Now,
I think Trump needs to do something. I think he will. He's talked about it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't understand this. Okay. They've got two rackets that are going on at the southern border. One of them is if your baby is born here, they're U.S. citizens. And that could anchor you. That's why that could anchor you to the United States because you are the parent or guardian of a U.S. citizen. Even though you were conceived in wherever else, right? Which is insane.
Was I an anchor baby? I don't think so. My dad is an American.
No, you were conceived in the United States.
Oh, yeah. I see what you're saying. Okay.
Your mother didn't get pregnant in Canada.
That's true.
And your mother's a legal immigrant.
That's true.
Okay? She's not an illegal immigrant.
That's true.
And she's a U.S. citizen
my
now.
brother has dual citizenship because if my mom was Canadian when we were born, I could get it too. And since my mom was Canadian, still when I was born, and my brother, I can get dual citizenship in both countries. My brother has it because he lived in Canada for a while.
Because he's a liberal and he likes having
well, but
citizenship
that's
American.
something I could do.
I don't know.
Because
don't do
my
it.
mom was not an American yet.
Don't do it. Don't do
No,
it.
I'm not going to, but I'm just saying I could. I could have dual citizenship there.
Yeah, but there's the other scam they have going is if you're from Venezuela, all of a sudden you're escaping oppression and communism. So you get refugee status, you get asylum in the United States, which that's got to go to. That's a racket, you know.
Things are bad in Venezuela.
Well, how do they know they're Venezuelan? Because they say so.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, anybody who speaks Spanish could say they're Venezuelan.
Right.
Oh, okay, you have asylum. You know, and it's ridiculous.
Well, they know how to work the system, like all liberals.
Well, they actually have in Mexico. Before they enter the country illegally, they have people who educate them.
They tell them what to do
on how to answer the questions that they're asked.
They probably give them
here.
pamphlets.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. It's true. This
I'm
is
not kidding.
We're not kidding.
No.
Okay, now one last thing I want to mention here. The media did another slander job on the great Trump family, and of course,
this was insane.
First Lady Melania Trump. The Trump family Christmas card was photograph, I should say, was posted online by Kim Guilfoyle, and everyone was in it except Melania. And the media, Melania, why isn't Melania in the family Christmas photo? And they spent a day in the media attacking the Trump family, accusing them of having marital problems and all this. They spent a whole day in the media doing this. And it turns out that Melania's mother is very sick in the hospital.
Right.
And she's elderly. And Melania has been in the hospital taking care of her elderly, sick mother in the hospital.
Like any good daughter would do.
Exactly. And that's why she wasn't in the Christmas photograph. She didn't want her mother to be alone at that time. You know, people that are elderly, frail, and sick in the hospital over Christmas, a lot of times they die of sadness and loneliness on Christmas. And I missed all the apologies on television.
What a great daughter. You know, she misses this big, huge Christmas party that I'm sure is a huge event at Mar-a-Lago. Everybody's there to be with her mom, so her mom's not alone. And I think that says a lot about her, that she puts family first.
Absolutely.
That says a lot about her as a person. And I know they tried to make a thing out of it. That died off quickly because then they realized
how stupid they look.
You know.
But they don't care. And they didn't
don't care. They
it.
just go for the jugular without even thinking.
Well, and they already got the narrative going. They got the narrative going that she's not there and there's problems in the marriage.
Somebody tweeted it this morning about that. And I responded to them. I said she was taking care of her sick mother. You know, read the news.
Now, I was looking. You tweeted the photo of this tiny little chicken we got from Publix. And the
hardly any meat on that
thing. The photograph doesn't really show how it's misleading. It makes it look bigger.
It looks pretty small to me.
But we got a message from Publix.
Oh.
Publix responded.
Oh boy.
On my Twitter. Publix Helps, the official Publix thing. They said, Brian, because it's on my Twitter. I'm serious. This is if you go open up the picture, Publix responded.
Wow.
Brian, I'm sorry we've disappointed you. Please send me a private message so that I can make this right for you.
Wow.
How can they make it right for us? Free groceries for a year.
I guess
from Publix.
message them and find out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, good for them.
That was nice that they stood up. They stood up and how can we make this right for you? Isn't that nice?
Usually their rotisserie chickens are pretty meaty and are enough to feed like 3 or 4 people. This was like just enough for you. I mean, even the legs were like hardly any meat. It was like mostly bone. I mean, I couldn't believe it. And I'm telling you, it's like almost like a Cornish game hen. I mean, it's like definitely not as big as their normal chicken. So that tells me
it was like a chicken in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. It was really little, like in a dollhouse. Like if you had a little dollhouse, it was like that small.
It was pretty small.
Oh yeah. Also, I don't want to forget.
Well, good for Publix.
They asked how they could make it right for us. But
we'll
that's very nice.
Out.
We'll have to DM them. Isn't that nice? Another thing, this is getting a total media blackout in this country, and this should be a major story in the United States. The tattooed Israeli girl that was held hostage, that was freed by the terrorists, she gave an interview.
Yes.
And she said everyone in Gaza are terrorists.
Yeah, that's what she said.
And she gave a lot of details. She talked about how she was being held at a like a family's house with other Israelis, and they're all on board with the terrorist. So she said everyone in Gaza is a terrorist or terrorist supporter. There's this idea that the people in Gaza are against Hamas and their hostages is a big media lie.
Yep.
And this girl's story, this freed hostage, is a media blackout.
I think it's safe to assume that everything that comes out of the national media is a lie. I think it's safe to assume that at this point.
That's why it's dying.
I don't think anything you hear in the news is the truth anymore. Well, maybe it never was that bad, but it seems that it's much worse than ever.
Now with the new media, right? Like what we're doing, or Tucker, or Megan, all the new media that's out there, Breitbart. The mainstream corporate media is now just background noise.
Yeah,
it really is. They're no longer setting the agenda. I mean, look at this thing with Nikki Haley. Fox News is defending her, and look, Nikki Haley stood up for a very deep philosophical.
Well, it shows you that they're not interested in giving you the news. They're interested in washing your brain and getting you to not vote for Trump.
Mm-hmm.
That is all they're interested in is manipulating you to vote a certain way. And they're all parties. They're all extensions of the DC political machine.
Look at this story I had today of Nikki Haley having an extramarital affair with this guy, having sex in parking lots in her government office and everything. That's nowhere in the mainstream media. That guy gave a sworn affidavit, which is a very detailed thing to go through.
Well, if another guy comes forward, they won't be able to ignore it.
It's not even in the news.
That is possible. There could, if she's did it with one guy, got her freak on in a car, there could be other guys, maybe ladies. You never know. I mean, you might not hear the end of this.
I'm not going to go through the details of it now, but if you want all the saucy or salty details of Nikki Haley's extramarital sexual affair.
I think it's saucy.
Saucy, whichever one it is. If you want the details. Salacious. Watch my live stream from this morning on YouTube. I go through it, but she was, when he detailed the sex between the two of them.
It was pretty detailed.
She was aggressive. She was very aggressive.
She's the man.
And which tells me that it wasn't the first time she had done that.
That's what I'm saying.
With a man she wasn't married to.
Right.
And probably not the last, probably. And I haven't seen that in any of the mainstream media at all. You mean this is the first time that there has been a Republican sex scandal that the media don't want to cover because they hate Trump and they want to promote Nikki Haley. They don't want people to know about her sex scandal.
Well, I think there might be more people coming forward.
I hope so.
I think it's highly
and I'll tell you why. You know, the Republican establishment are doing a big push trying to get Trump to pick her for his vice president. And what they're trying to do is get close second place finishes in New Hampshire and South Carolina. And since she was twice elected governor of South Carolina, they think that they can get a close second finish for her there and try to get Trump to pick her for vice president. And we need to expose, we exposed Ron DeSantis and he's done.
Yeah. I mean, things are falling apart.
And now we got to do the same to Nikki Haley.
For her.
Yeah. Because she can't be vice president. The reason it's important that she's not Trump's vice president.
That's not going to happen.
They're trying to elevate her or to a cabinet. They're trying to make a deal.
Don Jr. said he will not let that happen, and neither would Tucker. Well, they won't let it happen.
But here's the thing. Tucker Carlson said that if Nikki Haley were Trump's running mate, he wouldn't vote for Trump. He said, and he would advocate against him.
And Don Jr. said he would do everything in his power to keep her from being any part of the administration.
But the establishment want her involved, a cabinet position, something, because they want to run her in 2028. So it's important to expose her so she's not our candidate in 2028. You know, one of the many 10 billion things Trump has to do in 4 short years is pick the second MAGA president, his successor in 2028. And we got to make sure it's not Nikki Haley. And this sex scandal,
it's going to be Kristi Noem.
Is big.
That has to be it. That would be the smartest choice.
Listen, we're out of time for today. We will be back next time. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. Thanks so much, everyone, for listening, and we will talk to you next time.